Good morning, honorable members, our guests, and the staff. I hope I'm audible.
Yes,
Ms.
you are
Moy,
Chairperson. Yes, you
I'm
are
just
the Chairperson.
okay. I'm going to open my video so that I don't know why now it is not okay. So that I am being seen. I am in a ready for this meeting. Having said that, and I will request to close it because it's going to affect my network. Can you please start the agenda, Ms. Moy? In welcoming the CRL Commission as the steering committee on behalf of the multi-party caucus, parliamentary caucus, we have recognized the CRL Commission as a stakeholder in addressing our harmful and violent practices against women carrying out under the disguise of religion, culture, and tradition. And as the committee, in us engaging, the commission is also to obtain information of such practices and also focus on several key issues. I'm sorry, key areas, which are these: the empowerment and capacity building, the drivers of violence, challenges in engagement, and challenges in engagement. It's more key because it's given that many religious and cultural institutions are founded on a perceived calling engagement that can be very complex. And as the committee and as parliament, we may seek insight into the challenges the CRL has faced in engaging with these institutions to better inform further interactions should the committee seek to engage these institutions. And in provinces, we will also want to hear from you which are those provinces that the prevalence and forms of harmful practices are more practiced, including identifying hotspots, for example, whether practices such as ukuthwala are more common in certain provinces and regions. Proposed self-regulated framework, we as the CRL supports a self-regulation and model of religion, culture, and linguistic communities. The committee, we may seek clarities on whether these models should include compulsory registration, adherence to a code of conduct, and enforcement mechanism of non-compliance similar to regulatory framework applied in other professions. In conclusion, we hope that this engagement is going to empower us, is going to enable us because we also, because we are not a portfolio committee, we are more of an activism structure. That is a link between citizenry and parliament and citizenry. So our engagement with stakeholders of this nature is to empower us so that when we go out, maybe to conduct our, what we'll call our oversight or get some reports from stakeholders who would like to come in front of us, we will then have been empowered by your insights, your leadership, your interventions, your problems, your challenges, your interaction with maybe the government structures, so that when you have I'm just making an example, we when we pick up this practice, we went to SAPS and we didn't get any joy. It is then our responsibility as this committee to then request an audience with the Minister of Police or the Minister of Justice. I'm just making an example so that you have an understanding. We are not calling you here to account, but we are calling you here to empower us, and also you being empowered by the questions that we may have asked from you. So I thought it is important that in welcoming you, I then I I then outline that feel free, and we're happy that you have honored our invitation. You don't know how excited I was as the chair of this committee. That is to welcome everybody, because it's a Friday morning. Other members may be preparing to go for flights. Other members may also be preparing for other meetings, because Friday is also a working day to us. I feel welcomed, and we will then, in terms of the introduction, in as far as in line with what is in the agenda, we will then reflect on some of the members that are here and the importance of them being in this session. Thank you very much. Ms. Moy, can you take us through apologies if there are any?
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, Chairperson, honorable members and colleagues. Chairperson, I only received one apology from Honorable Kanyile. Thank you, Chair.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Can we then the adoption, can we get a member who can adopt our agenda? Honorable Kobe.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning to you and the colleagues. I move for the adoption of the agenda.
Thank you. Honorable Peterson.
Morning, Chair. Morning, colleagues. Chair, I second for the adoption of the agenda.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We are then going to chair of the commission. We are then going to go into introductions. Which introductions are going to be in this manner? Members are going to introduce themselves, and then how you introduce your team depends on you, as long as it's not just going to take the greater part of our time. I will start with myself. My name is Lindelwa, surname is Dunjwa. I'm the chairperson of the multi-party women's caucus, who then also chairs the steering committee. I will then allow other members to introduce themselves. Thank you very much. It's over to you, members, to introduce yourselves. Or should I? Okay. I don't know what's happening today. Members, we have invited the youth component of women for them to come and grace our meeting. In fact, we are timely supposed to come and introduce and invite them. in this one, my office thought it's important that we invite them so that they are also, as young women and young parliamentarians, they are then able to be exposed on some of the issues that you are going to raise, because they have got constituent offices and they will then be able to respond on some of the issues, having been getting a privilege of listening to your presentation. So I see there's a hand, Honorable, in that order, Honorable Tembekwayo, Honorable Obe, in that order.
Good morning, Chairperson. I just let me just introduce myself. I'm a member of the steering committee, Dr. Susan Tembekwayo. But I just would like to ask whether the chairperson maybe I missed an information where you told us as the steering committee that you are inviting the youth into the information of today. That's why I say maybe, because I was wondering to say we have honorable members Abu Malebu Kobe, and I was asking myself, are they new members of the steering committee or not? Just to mention that for matter of clarity.
Okay, I will clarify that after the introduction. I saw other hands. It was only your hand that was. Are there any members that want to introduce themselves? We have also been joined by Commissioner Kaluva. There's the staff of the office, Ms. Isaacs, Ms. Moy, who is our committee secretary, and we have also been fortunately we have been now allocated a researcher that is going to be full-time assisting us in the committee, and I will appreciate if I'll say Priscilla for now, because I find it difficult to pronounce her name. I mean her surname. So I will, with time, I will practice. I don't like to pronounce other people's surname wrongly. So Priscilla, can you just open your mic, your video, so that members and our guests are able to see you?
Good morning, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable members. My name is Princess Mpelo Malebye, and as the Chairperson said, I've been appointed as the researcher attached to the Caucus. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have also been in the meeting. We have got the content advisor, Ms. Papela. Just to clarify your question quickly before we allow Mrs. Kaluva introduce her team. Remember that we have also got we do have, as Parliament, a steering committee of young people. So these are not, they have got their own process. Maybe is that then we didn't then circulate our apologies as the office, we didn't circulate. So they are not joining the steering committee, but they are members of the youth section steering committee of Parliament. So we do have a right to, when there are presentations that we thought that they will also have an interest on, to invite them. But they also they are part of the multi-party women's caucus. But as we are, the Parliament has then see it fit that young people must also have their own a committee. So these are the members of the steering committee of young a public representative in this term. I thought, Honorable Tembekwayo, I must clarify and our apologies if then we didn't inform you as the steering committee that we are going to invite them. But obviously they are not members of our steering committee, they are invitees. But as members of parliament, I will request them to introduce themselves. That's why you may have seen that they they adopted the agenda. Yeah. Can we then quickly, can they introduce themselves? I see Honorable Kobe, Honorable Peterson in that order.
Thank you very
Honorable,
much.
okay. You may continue.
Thank you very much, Chair, and also thank you very much for the invite. My name is Malebo Kobe. I'm a member of the steering committee of the Youth Caucus. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. The next one.
Morning, Chair, morning, colleagues. Once again, I'm Honorable Peterson, and I also serve on the Youth Caucus Committee as well as the Committee for Women, Youth, and Persons with Disabilities. Thank you.
The next one.
Good morning, Chair, and good morning to everyone in the meeting. My name is Balungile Sapo. I'm also the member of the Youth Steering Committee.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. My name is Andisiwe Kumbacha. I am the member of the steering committee for the youth, and I'm also in the portfolio committee of international relations and cooperation. And greetings to everyone and to yourself, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, honorable members. And again, thank you for availing yourselves for this meeting. Commissioner Kaluva, I will hand over to you. You will then introduce your team. How you introduce your team, it will then depend on you. Thank you very much.
Honorable Chair, honorable members, good morning and thank you for having us this morning. Briefly, I will say we've got commissioners who are here. I'll only mention commissioners who will be adding to the presentation. Commissioner Makoboga is here, Commissioner Nkwe is here, and Commissioner Musala is here. Our CEO, Dr. Mafatsa, is also here, and members of the management team are also part of the platform. We are very grateful for being given this opportunity to make our presentation. We will start with the slides. We did submit the slides, the presentation on Monday. We've added maybe 3 new slides where we felt there was a space that was not yet covered. You have asked us to look at the issue of the framework, which I think is very relevant in terms of what it is that we're proposing. I'm sure the honorable members and the honorable chairperson is very much aware of what has been happening in the country, the level of objections that have been raised to what we're proposing, And we're very grateful to be presenting our framework, the proposed framework, and what we are saying. So the slides, I hope, Honorable Chair, you can see the slides.
Yes, Commissioner, we can see them.
Okay, thanks. I'll just start to save time and dive straight into the presentation. We are looking at strategies and frameworks to deal with harmful practices and violence against women perpetuated within cultural and religious institutions. We'll give you an outline and background of the proposals from the Sarah Rights Commission to Parliament and the nation on addressing the harmful cultural and religious practices. The proposals for both the religious and cultural sectors will be discussed. I'll briefly talk to our mandate. I'm sure most of the honorable members are aware we're a Chapter 9 institution, we're independent, we're an impartial body, and we're accountable to the National Assembly. We've got powers and functions that are given to us by our Act, which will lead us to what we're proposing. The Commission may do all that is necessary or expedient to achieve its objects referred to in Section 4, including 2A, conduct information and education programs to promote public understanding of the objects, roles, and activities of the Commission. B, to conduct programs to promote respect for and further the protection of the rights of cultural, religious, and linguistic communities. As I continue, I'll be referring to CRL communities to save time, assist in the development of strategies that facilitate the full and active participation of CRL communities in nation building in South Africa. D, to promote awareness among the youth of South Africa of the diversity of CRL communities and their rights, and E, to monitor, investigate, and research any issue concerning the rights of CRL communities. Continuing with the powers and functions, we educate, we lobby, advise, and report on any issue concerning the rights of CRL communities. We also facilitate the resolution of friction between and within CRL communities or between any such community and an organ of state where the CRL rights of a community are affected. We also receive and deal with requests related to the rights of CRL communities. We also have deliberately made this one bold. We make recommendations to the appropriate organ of state regarding legislation that impacts or may impact on the rights of CRL communities. We also establish and maintain databases of cultural, religious, and linguistic community organizations and institutions and experts on these communities, which means we're supposed to have a list of all religious leaders and religious institutions, etc., in the country. We also bring any relevant matter to the attention of the appropriate authority or organ of state, and where appropriate, make recommendations to such authority or organ of state in dealing with such a matter. We've got what we call Section 7 of the Act of the CRL Commission. The Commission may conduct an investigation in terms of Section 51E, which says we can investigate any matter. In terms of 51E itself, or may designate one or more Commission members or other persons as an investigating committee to conduct the investigations on its behalf. Section 7, we had a Section 7 investigation, which then builds up to our current recommendations and proposals that I'm sure you know have created a lot of talk in the country and debates. We started a study way back in 2015, which we called the commercialization of religion and the abuse of people's belief systems. We did share this report with the committee earlier, which emanated from a variety of reported abuses that were happening in the country. We then made the recommendations, which we took to Parliament at the time. The report recommended that religious communities should regulate themselves more diligently to be in line with the Constitution and the law, because they are not currently regulated. Communities should exercise their religious freedom with due regard to their legal, ethical, and community responsibilities. The Constitution leaves scope for all kinds of beliefs and opinions, even views which some may regard as extreme, are allowed and should not be regulated. We stand by that if you want to worship a cat, the Constitution allows you to do that, and we're not a commission that will violate your freedom of religion. Views which lead to the abuse of human rights, for example, hate speech and others, or to the violation of the law, are a cause for concern. Existing legislation affecting the various aspects of religious organizations, which include training, education, employment, registration, immigration legislation, etc., needs to be enforced with due diligence, because the hearings showed that the existing legislation has many loopholes, and this creates opportunities for abuse. Although religious organizations exist as voluntary organizations, the Civil Rights Commission should provide essential assistance in helping organizations to get their house in order and to ensure compliance with existing legislation and propose new legislation. The current disregard of fiduciary responsibilities is a serious concern. Religious organizations need to understand their responsibility in connecting religious freedom and recourse to ethical and community responsibility. There's a definite need to refer specific cases where organizations do not comply with the law to be referred to the relevant authorities, for instance, the NPA. Religious organizations are encouraged to get their house in order, among other things, by properly training and putting proper internal rules in place for their members. While there's an appreciation for bona fide foreign pastors serving the South African nation, the Department of Home Affairs should play a crucial role in curbing the abuse when considering visa applications. And I'm sure honorable members and honorable chairperson are aware of the SIU report, which they released this year. We noticed this as early as 2017, that there was something strange happening at the Home Affairs Department about foreign pastors coming into the country. Each institution must have a finance committee chaired by a duly elected member of the institution. The treasurer must also be duly elected, while the religious leader should become an ex officio member. This study, we termed it the commercialization of religion, because there was a lot of money moving around, which the SIU has also confirmed that there's a bit of a difficulty when it comes to how funds in the religious sector are being spent. To solve the leadership succession challenges, each religious institution should elect its leadership as per the provisions of its own constitution. This we've seen happening in some other churches where the problems are also now in court about succession plans. We saw it way back then. Clear separation between business activity and religious activity should always be maintained. While the religious institutions are free to start businesses in their own business space, businesses should be registered in the normal course so that the business and the religious structure are not being confused in the financials of the church or the religious institution. We submitted this to Caucus around late 2017, and the Caucus Portfolio Committee came up with the recommendations, which last year were told lapsed because they didn't table them. I think it was supposed to be retabled late or mid 2019. But we continued with the recommendations which they gave to us and the religious sector in the country. After hearing our proposals, they then also called the religious sector to make their own representations. And this is what they came up with. The committee notes that across the sector, there's agreement that there's abuse in the religious sector, and thus recommends the following. A national consultative conference, including the linguistic and cultural communities, should be convened to give a platform to discuss challenges in the religious sector. Arising from the NCC, the following should be established. A charter for self-regulation. That's what the Portfolio Committee proposed, and a code of conduct for the sector, which should be recognized by legislation. And then they said strengthening the mandate of ICASA and other such bodies to penalize misleading media claims. I'm sure honorable members, honorable chairperson, would be aware of those religious, I would call them adverts, where religious churches buy space in the media. Some channels specialize in this, and then they sort of advertise their healing powers in those spaces. So the Portfolio Committee said ICASA must be strengthened so that they can deal with these challenges of the claims and adverts. Strengthening legislation like the NPO Act and the Income Tax Act to ensure registration of religious institutions. This was one of the most important issues, that the NPO Act, where the religious sector is supposed to register, must be strengthened so that the monitoring is tighter. If you recall, one of the things we're asked to do was to have the National Consultative Conference. What is this thing called the National Consultative Conference? It's in our Act. It's prescribed in our Act. It's a conference comprised of members of the Commission, delegates from the SARL communities, delegates from every community council recognized, in terms of Section 37 of the SARL Act, delegates from the National House of Traditional Leaders, then when the Act was written, now called the National House of Traditional and Khoisan Leaders, the South African Human Rights Commission, PENSAL, the Commission for Gender Equality, and what was called then the Youth Commission, the now National Youth Development Agency, delegates from the national government designated by the minister, delegates from provincial government designated by the premier, delegates designated by organized local government. Our act is very clear about who should attend this national conference. The section 25 of the SARL Act says the purpose of the NCC is to provide a forum for A, the consideration of a report by the Commission on its activities, accomplishments, challenges, and any recommendations of the Commission, and B, the evaluation of progress in South Africa with regard to the promotion of respect for and furthering of the protection of rights of cultural, religious, and linguistic communities, and the furthering of peace, friendship, humanity, tolerance, and national unity among and within CRL communities on the basis of equality, non-discrimination, and free association. The NCC also says the formulation of requests and recommendations to the Commission concerning matters mentioned above in paragraph B. Most importantly, that's why we've kept it in bold, the discussion of resolutions before the conference concerning requests to and priorities for the Commission. And E, promoting appreciation of CRL diversity. We then held this NCC as was a part of the recommendations from the Caucus Portfolio Committee. In 2019, we held this NCC, and the resolutions were: one, under religion, the communities we serve recommended that the Sarah Rights Commission must do the following: continue ensuring that there's a peer review mechanism in place. Our working definition of a peer review mechanism is self-regulation and definitely not state regulation. Just like it is for many other professions in the country. I'm sure you know lawyers have the Legal Practice Council, social workers, teachers, even traditional healers have a council. Continue with the advancement and promotion of a process to regulate religious practitioners and not to regulate the religion. Continue pursuing the implementation of the proposals that the Commission submitted to the nation and to Parliament, which we've just gone through. And then we were appointed by the President to start this current Commission on the 1st of January 2025. February 2025, the current Commission had a strategic planning session. During the February 2025 strategic planning session in Kempton Park, the Sarah Rights Commission unanimously resolved to implement the NCC resolutions of 2019, which have just gone past. Part of it was that we must establish what we call Section 22 committees, which are established according to the CRL Act, Section 22 of the CRL Act. We said we'll have a committee for each religion, like Christians, Hindus, African traditional religion, Muslim community, Jewish community, Rastafari community, Baha'i, and others. What procedures did we use to do this? The procedures of implementation shall be in line with Section 20 of the CRL Act, which states that the Commission may determine its own procedure with due regard to the principles of transparency. So the Act says when we do such things, we determine what procedure we follow. Section 22 committee, in the SARL Act, it says the Commission may establish one or more committees consisting of members only or members and staff or other persons to assist the Commission in the performance of its functions. And it also says that the Commission must determine the functions of a committee, must appoint a member of a committee as the chairperson of the committee, and may remove a member of a committee at any time, and may determine a committee's procedure. So we established these committees as per the Civil Rights Act, and were very deliberate and intentional in ensuring that we follow the Act to the T, basically, and not a waiver. The terms of reference of Section 22 committees are to consult their religious communities on a charter for self-regulation, which you'll remember was what came from the Caucus Portfolio Committee, which will build towards a council for each religion based on other models that already exist in the country, e.g. for lawyers, nurses, doctors, traditional healers, etc. A code of conduct supported by legislation, like in the examples above. I think my line is a bit shaky, so I'll switch off the camera. We seem to be struggling with the thing. Okay. We were going to the code of conduct, as we said, came directly from the recommendations of 2018 Caucus Portfolio Committee. We are going into the next slide. Okay. Then we went into harmful cultural and religious practices. Section 31 of the Constitution, which deals with cultural, religious, and linguistic communities. It says persons belonging to a cultural, religious, or linguistic community may not be denied the right with other members of that community to enjoy their culture, practice their religion, and use their language, and to form, join, and maintain cultural, religious, and linguistic associations and other organs of civil society. This is a right given in the Constitution. However, the Constitution says there's a limitation. These rights in subsection 1 may not be exercised in a manner inconsistent with any provision of the Bill of Rights. Possible violations of the provisions of the Bill of Rights identified, which were identified over a period of time. Section 10, for instance, of the Constitution talks to human dignity. Section 11 talks to the right to life. When congregants are told to eat grass, drink petrol, be sprayed with doom, and told not to take their chronic medication because God or their ancestors said they should not take those, it becomes a problem. Section 27 talks to healthcare, food, water, and social security. When believers are told to buy holy water and anointing oil and to stop taking chronic medication, and when children are denied access to health care and immunizations, we've got specific examples of those that are currently happening and not like from the past, but challenges we're faced with right now. Violence perpetuated against women and children, sexual abuse under the guise that God or the ancestors said they must sleep with them in order to be healed, to find jobs, and to be good traditional healers. We've found these examples to be serious violations, and we find that that's where the law doesn't function the way it's supposed to operate. When people say there are enough laws in this country, you don't need to be worried about a council where religious and cultural leaders in terms of traditional healing should be monitored. It's part of this challenge we're faced with, because this is not the normal sexual abuse you'd find when people are being raped, as in sexual violations, but you'd find that you surrender yourself to the religious leader or to Gobela, the one who's training you to be a traditional health practitioner, because they are telling you that your ancestors or God has said you must sleep with them. And those become very difficult when it comes to reporting at the police station, because the victim does not see herself or even himself as a victim. Physical abuse under the pretext that they are taking out demons in both cultural and religious sector, and that has become a very difficult situation. The financial abuse, which we call it commercialization, telling congregants that God said they must resign from work and sell all their property and hand over the proceeds to the church. We've seen this in several churches across the country. If you can remember the 7 angels from Mengobo, if you can remember a few months ago, Reverend Bia from Guamapumulo, there was that church there where people had moved in, and we'll talk to that later on in our presentation, forcing congregants to submit their pay slips to ensure that they're paying the correct tithe to the church. They have to calculate how much they have to pay, and they're forced to pay, charging exorbitant amounts for training to be a traditional healer, for instance. The proposed framework for the religious sector, the Section 22 committees consult on how to form a council for each religion and what code of conduct will be effective to stop the abuses. This is the council where religious practitioners will apply for recognition. They will first be vetted as per the Children's Act 38 of 2005. If they're found to fail the vetting, then they cannot be religious leaders, be monitored and disciplined when there are complaints against the religious practitioners. That's our proposal, and the framework we feel will protect people in the religious sector, but also in the cultural sector. The findings from the Section 22 will then be brought to Parliament for appropriate legislation to be passed. We seem to be getting stuck with our IT people.
Have
Sorry
we
about
lost?
that.
Okay.
We'll be connecting soon, Honorable Chair.
Yes, Commissioner, and because of time, I know
I know.
this presentation is very important. Will I don't know whether the problem is what is on your side or what.
Yes, it's on our side. I'm very sorry about this. It shouldn't be happening, actually. We had looked into it earlier on.
If you do have, if I may just come in, if you do have a hard copy with you, you can take us through because we do have copies on our site, and I hope all members have got.
Oh,
If you
okay.
can, yeah,
I
you can.
think that could be useful. Let me do just that and allow you to follow the presentation from the copies. I'm getting to my copy now. We were on slide number if you have hard copies, we can continue then on the hard copies. I'm trying to get to the slide we were in so that I can tell you it's slide 31. We're on slide 31. Going to slide 32. And we were talking to the violations as per the Constitution, and to say that the issues of human dignity are not to be dealt with. I hope you are finding the slides.
The slide that you were in, unfortunately, our copies are not numbered. It is the harmful practice, the proposed framework for the religious sector. The last sentence that said the findings
Yes.
from the Section 22 will then be brought to Parliament for appropriate legislation. Because
Yes.
you broke when you were in that slide. The
Okay,
next,
thanks a lot.
okay.
Yes. And then we were saying we have also been looking at a parallel process to the Section 22 committee of especially all of them. We are going to have we've established a parallel process to consult with GBVF victims and survivors in cultural and religious settings. A subcommittee of all Section 22 committees consisting of 4 CRL Rights Commission commissioners has been formed to deal specifically with GBVF and will cut across all religions and cultural settings. Those are the commissioners I introduce to you. And I think we're back on, honorable members. I'm very sorry about that. The objective of this subcommittee that will deal specifically with GBVF in sacred spaces, which we say is cultural and religious settings, to engage with victims and GBVF activists on how legislation and government programs can be sharpened to facilitate prevention of GBVF in sacred spaces and effective prosecution of perpetrators in this area. The Commission is in full support of the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide, especially in sacred spaces, with emphasis on accountability and ethical conduct. Notably, the strategy aims to address the widespread issue of gender-based violence and femicide in South Africa, adopted in 2020. I'm sure members are quite familiar with the national NSP, with its pillars, a roadmap for the next decade focusing on creating a safe, violence-free environment organized around 6 key pillars: accountability, prevention, justice, response, economic empowerment, and research. A plan to drive social change, tackle harmful norms, which is what we're dealing with, ensuring that survivors have access to necessary resources for healing. It aims to transform South Africa into a place where women, children, and the LGBTQIA plus persons, where they can thrive free from violence, focusing on creating a safe, violence-free environment. It is organized around the 6 key pillars: accountability, prevention, justice, response, economic empowerment, and research. The plan seeks to drive social change, tackle harmful norms, and ensure that survivors have access to necessary resources for healing. The terms of reference of this GBVF subcommittee will be to identify survivors of GBVF in sacred spaces, to facilitate engagement with survivors in order to gather evidence, perspectives, and practical proposals, to strengthen public understanding that no cultural or religious justification may override constitutional rights. We are also going to analyze barriers to reporting, support seeking, and access to justice, including language barriers and stigma, especially for people who are using South African Sign Language. We found that that's a challenge there. To look at abuse of authority by religious and cultural practitioners, manipulation through spiritual dependency, suppression of reporting to protect reputations, pressure on survivors to forgive without accountability, and inadequate safeguarding mechanisms within institutions of faith and beliefs. We have this plan, which also runs parallel to the implementation of the Traditional Health Practitioners Act, because as the Civil Rights Commission, we're responsible for both cultural and the religious part. However, we've discovered that the implementation of the Traditional Health Practitioners Act that established the interim Traditional Health Practitioners Council that is supposed to be looking at traditional health practitioners, which would be izangoma, izinyanga, etc., is not being implemented fully as it should have been by now. The council has been formed, but it has not delivered on its mandate to register, monitor, and discipline traditional health practitioners. The Civil Rights Commission is currently working with national structures of traditional health practitioners through consultations in all provinces to find a solution to this lack of implementation and the challenges they have about the Act itself. After all provinces have been covered, the Civil Rights Commission will lead a delegation of leaders of traditional health practitioners to make representations about their challenges caused by the lack of implementation of the Act, which allows for the abuse to continue in the traditional health space. We continue receiving complaints from the victims coming out of the traditional health system. The Civil Rights Commission started early in 2026 to discuss this challenge after national structures of traditional healers filed complaints about this aspect. There are new developments. The Portfolio Committee on Health, which is there in Parliament with you, issued a statement on the 26th of May 2026 expressing its serious concern and frustrations over the continued lack of impact of the Interim Traditional Health Practitioners Council of South Africa, more than a decade after it was established in 2014. We are also faced with funding challenges. We've got this massive campaign we're looking at in terms of going out there, finding the victims and the survivors so that they can come back and say, this is our input and this is how we think the system should change in order for potential victims not to be victims anymore. We've approached the Department for Women, Youth and Persons with Disability to find out if we would qualify for the funds that have been set aside for the GBVF as a national disaster, because we feel this is a very important aspect in terms of GBVF in sacred spaces. Our way forward as the Civil Rights Commission, we're confident that the creation and full implementation of the councils for the religious sector, different councils for each religious, for each faith and by the religious sector, will ensure the protection of the most vulnerable in society. This is for the religious sector and by the religious sector. We're also of the strong opinion that these proposals will not violate the freedom of religion of any faith group. We were going to have examples, because I think it's the examples that will make the honorable members to understand the crisis we're faced with, especially in the religious and cultural sector. One of the things which the honorable chairperson raised was the issue of Twala, which as the Civil Rights Commission have been very intentional in making sure that we do not even use the term ukutwala when people abduct children and young people and they kidnap them and they rape them. There can be no cultural practice that allows for that to happen, and we've worked non-stop to make sure that this thing doesn't continue further. We are aware that the Eastern Cape, especially around the Mampondweni, some parts in KZN around Ladysmith, Bergville, there were also challenges, and also in the south of KZN. We have worked tirelessly with the traditional leaders in the areas to say this cannot be tolerated, and we've always said we should not even use the term ukutwala to define the violation that is happening in those areas, because ukutwala only happens between a couple when maybe the young man cannot afford to pay ilobola, but it has to be willing. The woman has to be willing. Once you abduct someone going to school or going to the shop, you are outside the framework of the culture, and you should be dealt with accordingly. I'm not sure how we're doing for time. We had thought that we'll give you a few examples from the commissioners, but I see we might have run out of time allocated. We're in your hands, Honorable Chair, to tell us whether we'll allow the commissioners to give examples, or you want the question and clarity time to kick in.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Luva. I think this is quite an intense and more emotional, empowering presentation. I will check with members, because what I was going to propose was that maybe we just get some short clarities, so that we are then able to allow members. Here we belong to different committees, and there are sittings that are taking place, are going to take place now at 10 o'clock. Whether we allow you allow us for clarities, or having received this, we then decide whether to call you again, because I'm raising that because you have mentioned two portfolios, which as the steering committee, both now from the ourselves and the youth, we are also have to interact with those portfolio committees, in line with what you have raised here, e.g. COPTA and health. But can I just check with members in terms of how then do we proceed from here, in it, because we are then going to have to rush and join our meetings. Honorable members, because I don't want to prescribe, I will just be guided by you on how then do we move forward from here, from this very important presentation. Any comments? Honorable Tembekwayo, it's only your hand. And I want to the youth section, youth steering committee, feel free to talk. You are not just guests, you are also members of parliament. So feel free for whatever proposal or suggestion that you want to make. I see the hand of Honorable Tembekwayo for now. Over to you, Honorable Tembekwayo.
Thank you, Chairperson, and also a word of appreciation for this presentation. But on the same note, I would agree with you to say we can pack the moment of asking questions and their response on the site, especially because it won't be the engagement won't be as effective as we are expecting it, because we have now to go and log in the NA, for example, to be part and parcel of the mini that is going to be presented today. Rather, what we can do is we pack it on the site, but we can do a written type of engagement or questions to them, because this is a complicated and very sensitive type of presentation. And as you have said, it involves other committees like COCTA, as it is mentioned. And we have got questions, a lot of questions that comes to say the religious people, which churches are identified. And when you talk about victims, how are they able to get to churches where there are victims, but they are not given an opportunity to do that? And what about the people that do not speak out and so on, including the funding challenges? So it's a complicated something that needs, in actual fact, a thorough engagement further. So I would suggest, and I would pack my questions on the site until guided by you on when the right time would be for us to engage with them. Thank you.
I thank you, Honorable Tembekwayo. Any other member who may want to input before I can show it now? No, Commissioner, thank you very much. First, we will, if they are true, Ms. Moy, we will send you written questions. As Honorable Tembekwayo have said, this is quite, it needs a day that we are to interact with you. I'm just thinking aloud now without any mandate, which we must relook into as the steering committee, that I think you'll then have to be physical with us, because these, and we will then invite either the chairs of health and COCTA, so that we really not rush through. We don't want to speak, ask questions when we are on our feet, but we want you to feel that we do appreciate this presentation. We do appreciate the work that you have done, challenging us on the acts and the sections of the community that we may have not deliberate, we may have either overlooked, understanding that all this is about our citizenry, it's about in fact, it's about the transformation of the citizenry in terms of our religious sector, in terms of the cultural activities, traditional leaders, traditional healers. So it's not just a presentation for the sake of presentation. It then needs time. So this is a first step, that you have presented us this, given us this presentation. We are to interact with the other portfolio committees. We will then send you our questions, as Honorable Tembekwayo have said, as individuals or as political parties, because this does not only touch on, it also touches on us as public representatives, because we've got our own cultural and religious beliefs, which may be affecting us on how to do our work. Having said that, I think I want to thank you very much, Commissioner. Rest assured, you are coming back. We will then have, because we are dealing with important issues of Parliament now, in terms of portfolio committees. When we then get that space, which is not going to be very long, we will then call you. We will then have to interact with powers to be. I will check with other members of the steering committee that are not which are also engaged in other activities, I think we will invite you physically and talk with you, whether you come with your few commissioners and really interrogate and interact with this. This is quite emotive, it's quite serious, and as Honorable Temekwayo have said. So thank you very much, Commissioner Kaluva and your commissioners. We will come back to you, and I hope you won't feel bad that we didn't ask any questions. We don't want to ask questions for the sake of asking questions, but we will send you written ones so that when you come back, you are then able to respond to those. And having said that, I think our meeting will stand adjourned until we meet again, so that we allow members to log in their respective committees. Thank you very much, honorable members and Commissioner Kaluva. I don't know whether you don't want to just a second.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Honorable members, we will wait for your written questions, and we agree with you that this needs thorough interrogation, a physical meeting at some point so that we can engage and explain fully what we're proposing to the nation and how we think this will resolve the challenges we're faced with in the nation around the religious sector and the cultural sector. Thanks a lot, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your understanding, Commission. Members, our meeting then stands adjourned until we meet again, so that we're able to log in to the mini plenaries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.